So today we're going to talk about powder and loading the powder. First thing you need to understand is that it needs to be pistol powder. Really needs to be pistol powder. So check that out before you buy it. And there's many different brands of powder. I happen to favor Ogden Tight Group, but it's pistol powder. The next thing you're going to need to know is the type of bullet. Now, of course, we're shooting 45 ACP, but the weight of the bullet really matters, of course, and we're shooting 230 grain round nose. That matters when you start trying to find out how much powder you need. And the diameter is 0.451. There is a 0.452, and that may make the difference in some powders. So you need to know caliber, weight, type, and diameter if it's available. While some powder containers may have some kind of table on it to show how many grains of powder, I would not rely on that. Instead, I would encourage you to navigate to the website for the powder manufacturer. They almost always have reloading center that you can select from. So in this case, I'm on the Ogden site. I'll go to pistol and I'm going to select the cartridge, and in this case it's 45 ACP. The weight, the bullet weight, is 230 grains, and I'm using the manufacturer of Ogden, and I'm using the Tight Group powder brand, and here it is right here. So once I do that, I say get data. Now my search returned 2 loads. And it's important to now read the table very carefully. Remember, in this case, for this particular bullet, the recipe is for a .452 diameter bullet, and this is for a .451 diameter bullet. The case overall length, or the cartridge overall length, is the same for both. That's good. Now, there are 2 sections: starting load and maximum load. Never ever start with maximum loads unless you are a very experienced reloader. That's just a pure safety comment. So now the question is, how many grains are you going to want to load in each cartridge? Well, for this bullet, the starting load is 4.4 grains, and then this bullet, I'm sorry, this is 4.0 grains, and this one is 4.4 grains. The velocities are fairly close, so the maximum for each is 4.8. So what I do is I want to stay close to the starting load here and be in the middle of this. So that means regardless of which type, I'm going to be okay. So I've chosen 4.5 grains as the middle of the road, safe amount of grains to use for reloading 45 ACP. It will change based on the powder manufacturer and the powder type, but this is predominantly how you get your information. So now we know for our purposes here, we're going to use 4.5 grains of Ogden Tight Group powder. Now let's talk about the kind of bullet. Here, this is 230 grain LRN, which stands for lead round nose. It's a round nose bullet, and it's a lead bullet. This one is a Hornady brand, full metal jacket, flat point. So instead of having round, it's flat on the top. Okay? 4.5 grains is what we determined based on this table. So we need to have some way of measuring the amount of what 5 grains looks like. And then we adjust our powder hopper to get the 4.5 grains. Now I've chosen to use an electronic scale, and this is the Hornady. Why? Because it matches the powder. It matches the rounds and the reloading equipment. So it's an electronic scale, the GS 1500. There are others. I just happen to prefer this one, and it works well. So before using any scale or measuring device for powder, you need to make sure that it's calibrated. All of the scales that you would get come with some means of having a known weight. This is a 100-gram known weight, and you put it on the scale and you zero it for that. It might be a little different for the scale you choose. The point is, for the first time, calibrate the scale, and if it has been a long time, several months, you probably want to recalibrate again, just to be sure. The next thing I do is take my powder tray that I'm going to put on the scale, and I run several cycles of powder into this just to finally clear out the powder measure itself, and that will look something like this. And I'll pour it back in the top. Do some more. Now I'm comfortable that I can start reliably measuring one cycle from the powder hopper and then measuring it on the scale to see what one cycle of the handle will deliver, because I'm looking for 4.5 grains, right? Now before you start measuring, you need to double check that your tin is clear, there are no powder grains in there, and now you're going to set the tare weight. That means you're going to literally subtract the weight of this, so that the only weight that's getting measured is the weight of the powder. So we turn the scale on. And let it zero. Then we put the container on, and then select tare so that it zeroes out. So now anything that goes in the hopper there will be just the weight of the powder. So what we're going to do next is actually put empty casing in the casing holder. We're going to raise it slowly and gently up so just it stops, and we're going to cycle one time with the handle. And then we're going to take this and dump it into the hopper over there and see what it weighs. Now we've dumped that one cartridge amount into the hopper, and as you can see, we get 4.6 grains. So I'm going to adjust my adjustment here just a little bit to get a consistent 4.5. I wouldn't worry too much about 4.6 because we're dealing about pistol caliber, but you want to be in the habit of being as precise as you can. So you take this amount and you just dump it back into the hopper. Now our scale turned off because we waited too long. So we redo the tare so that it zeroes out. We take our cartridge, we put it back in the cartridge holder and recycle again and dump it back into the holder and see what the amount is. I'm going to adjust this ever so slightly and see what that does. So as you can see, a very slight adjustment dropped it down to 4.5, and that's pretty much where we're going to leave it. and then we'll do, with the setting that we now have in the powder dispenser, we'll go ahead and throw powder into our cartridge, into our casings. And now we're done with our 100 rounds throwing powder, and that took about 5 minutes. Remember, at about 3 seconds per round, so not bad. Next, we'll talk about putting the bullets in and having a complete round. Now you're probably wondering, how many rounds can you do with X amount of powder? Well, this is an 8-pound container. But what you can expect in loading 45 ACP at about 4.5 grains per round for a 230 grain bullet is about 1,500 rounds per pound of powder. This is almost half empty. There's a lot of rounds that have been loaded from this powder. But think about 1,500 rounds per pound, and you get them in pound cans. So, I hope this was helpful. Gave you some more information about how to reload 45 ACP. Thanks for watching. Carry on. Next step, how to put those bullets in there. Then we're done.